So a garden with no weeds. So that's something that many of us gardeners dream for. So today I'm going to show you one method that can save you time weeding, save you water and get you much bigger harvests. So join me in this video, make sure you watch until the end so I can show you how you can get bigger harvests, less weeds and save water in your garden. So from that introduction you've probably guessed that today I'm going to be speaking about no-dig gardening. And firstly I'm going to talk to you about the pros and cons of being a no-dig garden. And I'm also going to show you how you can start being no-dig after watching this video. And I'll also give you some resources that I find really helpful when I started being no-dig. And I'm also going to link down there some great no-dig books, mainly from people like Charles Dowding, and just also some other good books that I really find helpful, especially with no-dig gardening. So as many of you will already know, no-dig involves putting compost, mulches of compost on, in between plantings on your beds, and without digging it in. So when you just put it straight on top, what will happen is the worms and the fungus and the microbes all in your soil will all work in harmony as a bit of an ecosystem, and they'll all work to try and incorporate this compost and break it down into the rest of the soil. And when you first start no-dig, in your first season, you'll already see an improvement in your soil. So I've only been doing no-dig in this bed for about half a year now, and if you look at this now, I'm just going to get some of the soil. I've just dug down with my hand, and that is my soil at the moment. Now, that is because you keep putting homemade compost and old potting compost from old pots straight onto the soil, and this will help. It'll improve your soil structure, more nutrients in your soil, and it also really helps to retain moisture. Because if you think about it, if you want to watch my hay drying video, click up here. But when drying hay, you turn the hay to dry it over. So technically, by turning over your garden, aren't you trying to dry it out? So by not turning it over, you're keeping your soil very wet and moist, and it'll also, there's these funguses in the soil, and there's big strands of them that you'll hear Charles Dowding speak about if you go and see his no-dig videos after this video, of course. And the big fungi that make strands in the soil, when you dig this, you break these up, and these are like the channels or the wires of the soil, and this is how all of the soil microbes sort of communicate with each other, and it all works in harmony together. So you'll have more, from starting no-dig, you'll have better soil for better harvests, you'll already save water, and you'll also have a better ecosystem in your garden with your fungi, your microbes and everything just like that. So one of the main struggles that people struggle with when they first start out no-dig is finding the right amount of compost, or enough compost, to cover all of your vegetable beds. Because really it is quite a lot. 4 inches, 2 to 4 inches over everything every autumn and between plantings can be quite overwhelming. My one tip is for you to up your composting game, and also you can buy in bulk things like municipal compost and anything like that, just to help you in covering your beds. So something that you might find very useful to help something else that you might find very useful, which I use, is to have wood chip paths. So here I've got some old conifer, I think this is Leylandii wood chips that I've got, and what I do, I leave this mulch here, this path will be on for about another year or two now, and what I do is I let it break down, and then I use this compost and I turn it onto the beds. Now this is a great compost, it's quite high in carbon, which is what a lot of soils are lacking in current day, and I just use this. This is a great carbon source for my soil, and I'll just come and show you. That's some of the compost that I got from my path last year, which is why I do this, because wood chips, I can get these for free, or very cheap at least, and I just chuck them on the beds then when they're done, and it's a full system. Another way is by doing other mulches, such as grass clippings. I know other people, such as Charles Dowding, only use composted mulches, but I do think it's a bit unsustainable sometimes on a bigger scale, especially if you can't keep up with your compost. just using other mulches to help save water and stuff as well, like grasses and hay, straw, things like that can also help. So before you go throwing out your fork, you need to keep this in mind. You're going to need to make compost, lots of it as well. So using a fork, I try and make compost in as quick time as possible, because even if it isn't fully, finally broken down, it'll continue to break down when you put it on your beds. So don't worry about having perfect compost. Just make sure that you get the organic matter on, is what my principle I follow. And I use a fork like this to turn mine either on a weekly or a daily schedule sometimes, and this can help me get my compost in between 30 to 90 days in a hot summer. And also using compost activators can help, so using things such as grass clippings or horse manure, and this will really speed up the composting process. And other than compost, you can also, if you could source well rotted manure such as horse manure is a good one, you can use that on your beds. But if you have a dog, they do like to sniff and eat it. So something you might be asking, when you can't dig, how do you get rid of weeds? So some things such as dandelions, to get the full root out, you do have to slightly dig down and pull them out, or you can try and pluck them out. But with most things with just fine roots, you can still pull them out, and you can still use a hoe in your vegetable patch when you no dig. But you can also smother weeds with about 2 to 4 inches of compost. You just chuck it on top of the weed, and this should stop it photosynthesizing, and it'll eventually kill it off because it won't have enough energy to push through that mulch. One of the worries that many gardeners have when they start no-dig gardening is that the soil will get too compacted, and you need to be reassured with this. The soil, from standing on it every now and then, is not going to get compacted. There's a difference between firm and compact soil. So a compacted soil will be if you've driven a car over it or something really heavy. But just by walking over it, unless it's soaking wet, it won't really compact at all. Because the joy with no-dig is that compost is a light and fluffy material, and it's really airy. And with all the microbes and worms and things in it, they'll keep aerating the soil, which will mean that your soil won't get firm or compacted, and it'll always be airy and fluffy for the plant's roots to push through. So I hope you learned something that you didn't know before about no-dig gardening today, and I also hope I've inspired you to start no-dig gardening yourself. If you want to see more from my channel, there'll be a video up here showing you how to make your own hay, and also a video down here about how you can deal with pests in your garden. And also, if you'd like to subscribe and support my YouTube channel, please click up here.